King Arthur and His Knights by Elizabeth Lodor Merchant. We are starting on Pelleas and Ettarre. We marveled much, O damsel, wearing this unsunny face, to him who won thee glory. It was the eve of a great 3-day tournament, which Arthur was to hold at Caerleon. Already the 500 knights who were to strive for the golden circuit had begun to assemble. The ladies who were to view the spectacle were coming too, each hoping that her favorite knight would win the prize and present it to her as the fairest. Through the dim woods and over the green fields they came with their retinues. Everywhere resounded the joyous laughter of travelers, the pleasant clink of arms and harness and scraps of song. All over the countryside blazed the brilliant color of rich trappings as these cavalcades wound over the crooked, stony roads. The very air was filled with merriment and tense with excitement and expectation. The commons were gathering too, leathern aproned smiths and armorers whose services would be needed in the coming days, vagabonds, ragged, whining beggars, rattling wooden clack bowls at the lords and ladies' stirrups, sturdy, arrogant beggars demanding alms with a menacing scowl, swaggering woodsmen in Lincoln green, and not a few monks from the neighboring monasteries, their black robes tucked up in their girdles of knotted cord, their hoods thrown back, and their forgotten beads clattering at their sides as they strode along. All these little bands were in holiday spirit. They laughed, they joked, they sang, and the monks sang loudest of them all. To all those who rode towards Caerleon, the scene was a gay one. The scene was a joyous one. I'm trying to catch all of them and change them into modern speech. Even the knights of 100 jousts felt their breath quicken as they looked upon it. Among the travelers was a young man who rode alone on his first journey from the barren and desolate islands which he had but newly inherited, and to him it was a scene from fairyland. All the knightly glory which the minstrels had sung at his father's court seemed here magnified 100-fold. The high ideals of chivalry which his lonely youth had given him, the belief in the sanctity of knightly honor which his upbringing had taught him, were unspeakably intensified by the sight of these brilliant and stately companies which for some days had ridden by him. Now at last he had reached his goal, for, coming through a thicket of beeches, he looked down upon a goodly valley with a silver ring running through it, and beside the river a hill where rose the grey towers of the king's castle, and the roofs of the town clustered about it. As Pelleas slept, he dreamed of the tournament. Already the early comers had set up their gaily striped and colored tents beside the lists. Here and there a bright shield suspended from a bough, or upon a spear displayed the device of the owner of the encampment, and proclaimed him to be a knight of the great attainments, whose deeds had reached even the remote court of the lone young knight Pelleas, Lord of the Isles, looked down upon the scene enraptured, and as the sound of the bells of a monastery, the grey walls of which showed through the distant trees, rose upon the evening air. He dreamed great dreams of the deeds he too should accomplish. Like many another youth, he told himself that his name would yet be sung by the harpers by the winter fireside as a very model of allegiance to the high vows of the Round Table. However, his journey had been long, and now that it was so nearly accomplished, his excitement flickered. He sat down to rest for a moment, presently stretched himself upon the ground, and soon was fast asleep. As Pelleas slept, he dreamt of the tournament. He won the sword and golden circlet. Then, when he was required to choose the lady upon whom to bestow the circlet, he remembered that he had no lady. He rode round and round the lists, seeking among the spectators one fair enough to deserve the honor. However, when he found a lovely damsel and was about to place the crown of beauty upon her head, her countenance instantly became that of a hideous hag, and the derisive laughter of the spectators covered him with confusion. Slowly the lists faded from his sight. Slowly the blurred faces of the milling mob melted into a sea of forest branches, tossed by the gentle breeze and gilded by the level rays of the late afternoon sun. He stretched lazily upon the purple heather, gazing with that delicious indolence of gentle awakening, in which dream and reality are indistinguishably mingled over the firs. Suddenly a peal of laughter rang out close at his elbow, so like the laughter of the dream that Pelleas was not sure that he was yet awake. He looked up, and there was a cavalcade of ladies and gentlemen, and a large retinue watching him. Advanced a little from the rest was a tall knight in silver armor. He sat among his horse, with one arm akimbo, and from beneath his raised visor gazed disdainfully upon the young man stretched upon the grass. Upon his saddle hung a small tilting shield, bright red, and adorned with 3 silver roses. Pelleas scrambled hastily to his feet. Again the woods were filled with the laughter of the lords and ladies, and loudest and longest of all laughed the tall, arrogant knight in the silver armor.